The heat is going to be familiar, but the view is not going to be familiar as we get deeper into this Tuesday. An example from last year of what can happen when a big plume of dust comes our way, from nice blue skies one afternoon to the next one looking gray, dingy, just kind of nasty. That's likely going to happen today as our first really big plume of Saharan dust comes our way from the Saharan desert. Why though? It's because of the difference in temperatures between the extreme heat in the Saharan desert, the chilly waters of the Gulf of Guinea. That causes the air here to move from east to west in what we call the African easterly jet, with a couple of impacts. Some more common than others. The first you may be familiar with are the disturbances that come off of the west coast of Africa, get into the warm waters of the Atlantic, and eventually spin up into tropical storms or hurricanes that can eventually threaten Texas. The second impact, though, with this jet going right over the sand dunes of the Saharan desert, well, this creates what we call the Saharan air layer. Millions of pounds of dust are lofted thousands of feet into the sky, and it's because of this layer being so high above our heads that it's able to complete the incredible 5,000-mile journey all the way from Africa to the Lone Star State and other parts of the Caribbean. The jungles often rely on this dust plume as a fertilizer, believe it or not. One of the few positive impacts, but most of this is going to be negative when this dust arrives here later today. Air quality is going to be reduced along with an invigoration of allergens. Hard to get rain as well with this dust in the air. But the good news is the tropics stay quiet when the dust is present, plus you can get more colorful sunsets. I think our sunsets are not going to be that colorful, though, because this plume of dust is just that thick. You can see it already approaching from the south quickly. It'll be here just after sunrise. All right, let's get deep into the science behind today's potential storm chance and why I don't think it's going to be a significant deal for us, at least locally. This is a conditional severe weather threat, meaning all of your conditions have to be met. You need moisture, you need lift, you need instability, and you also need a secret fourth ingredient to also cooperate. So let's go through the checklist. Lift. Check. We got a trough of low pressure approaching right now, producing quite a bit of snow in New Mexico. That's the lift in the atmosphere, which is going to be meeting up with a warm front, which is, as we speak, lifting northward through central Texas. Check box number 2. Lots of moisture, enough fuel for storms to work with. Check box number 3 is instability, energy available for storms. There is going to be some. It's not a lot. This is fall, late fall, not like a spring severe weather threat, but this instability is enough for storms to tap into and maybe spin up into a quick tornado. Here's the problem that is now a bigger problem in terms of storm chances today than we once thought. The cap on the atmosphere is going to prevent storms from climbing all the way to the top of the atmosphere. It's a layer of warmer air here closer to the surface that prevents this hot air balloon, so to speak, from rising through that warmer atmosphere. The only good way to know what's happening with the cap on the atmosphere is to launch a weather balloon into the atmosphere. That climbs all the way up to 100,000 feet tall, collects temperature, wind, pressure data along the way. Just before 6 a.m., Texas A&M University, just down the road in College Station, put one of those balloons in the air. We are very shortly going to get a piece of that data to see what the cap looks like. That'll be great data to chew on. For now, though, the Storm Prediction Center still has us under a 1, 2, or 3 out of 5 risk for, yes, a few brief, weak tornadoes, especially east of I-35. But I think when that new data comes in, and as more new data continues to come in, it's going to continue to suggest that we will not get much in the way of stormy weather today. If that holds true, check out this data. It says through lunchtime, we're still just wrapping up this drizzle, mist, light shower activity without much stormy activity to show for it. We'll see. We still got to keep our heads on a swivel, especially over here towards Highway 77. But long story short, after 3 o'clock, any potential severe weather threat is gone. Here comes a cold front early tomorrow morning that may spark another low chance for a storm, non-severe to our southeast tomorrow. But I think we're going to get through this in just one piece. Dorothy's going to keep both feet on the ground, so to speak. All right, this morning it's nasty out there as this warm front's lifting in. 58 in Austin, but temperatures are warming as this warmer and more humid air works in from the southeast. All we have to show for it is widespread drizzle, fog, mist, nasty morning commute, and grab the rain gear. It's not a lot of rainfall, but persistently enough, it does add up. 24-hour accumulation closing in on a couple tenths of an inch, I think, before long, down here southeast of us. This morning rain, afternoon storm chance eventually clears to a little bit of sunshine to close out this final day of November. Here comes the first day of December. Yeah, cold front moving through, but it is not a strong December cold front. Helps cool us off into the 40s and 50s tomorrow morning, but actually helps warm us up thereafter. These Pacific fronts have more dry air than cold air behind them, so highs this weekend looking great and feeling great in the mid-70s. Hurricane season is here and it will be with us officially for the next 6 months, June 1st through November 30th. It's going to take a while for this season to really ramp up. Typically, peak season, climatologically speaking, happens September 10th for the Atlantic in terms of hurricanes and major hurricanes. But for Texas, our peak season arrives a little bit earlier, especially towards the second half of August. That's when historically the greatest number of landfalls of hurricanes and major hurricanes have occurred. There are a series of forecasts that we can use to potentially give us an idea of what's coming our way. On average, the hurricane season in the Atlantic produces about 14 named storms. National Hurricane Center and Colorado State University have both released their own forecasts calling for a roughly average season, but those aren't the only forecasts. There's one from across the pond, the UK Met Office, that says we'll have as many as 20 named storms, many of those being hurricanes. So who do we believe? What kind of season are we looking at here? Well, let's diagnose two factors at play. Let's first start with how hurricanes operate. They thrive over warm ocean waters. The warmer the water, the stronger the storm, because they are heat engines, these hurricanes, that thrive off of that stored energy in the form of heat in ocean waters. They release it into the atmosphere in these spiral rain bands on either side of the eye of the hurricane. But this is only most effective when the atmosphere around a hurricane is quiet. When you add wind shear into the mix, which is changing wind speed and direction with height, all of a sudden these storms are getting bent from one side to the other. They're getting twisted apart, and sometimes they don't even form to begin with. That brings me to El Nino. I've been talking about it for months now. It is rapidly developing in the equatorial Pacific waters. Down there near the equator, it is getting hot in a hurry, and this El Nino is likely to be moderate to strong during the peak of hurricane season. The main consequence being, during El Ninos, there's more wind shear out here in the Atlantic where storms are trying to get organized. So are we looking at a quieter season? Not so fast. Also got to talk about sea surface temperatures, which are already screaming hot across much of the Atlantic into the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. That would lead to above average activity, stronger storms, more numerous storms. So who do we believe? The warmer waters leading to a more active season, or the higher wind shear leading to a quieter season? At the end of the day, doesn't matter, because all it takes is one. That one for us was 6 years ago, Hurricane Harvey, which made landfall on the Texas coast, and for us was a significant flood maker with 30 inches of rain falling in central Texas.
Studio.
Yeah, and you can see them behind us too. Flashes of lightning are pretty consistent. The only bad news in Austin right now with this thunderstorm activity are some power outages. About 2,500 customers through Austin Energy without power. Always happens when there's lightning strikes, but otherwise this is the soaking rainfall we have been begging for. There's another look outside. Not only does it look good, rain and storms, the likes of which we haven't seen in quite a while, it feels much better too. Rain cooled 67 right now. All right, current radar view. Allison mentioned that severe thunderstorm warning. It's for a very small section of southern Hays County and far southwestern Caldwell County. There could be some winds in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 miles per hour here. Haven't seen any official reports of any damage yet, so we'll keep an eye on it for you, but I think we're doing okay there. This is just good old-fashioned rainfall thunderstorm activity. You can see the intensity starting to lessen up here just a bit. There's a flood advisory in effect through 9 a.m., so watch out for some of the typical low water crossing issues that we see whenever it rains real heavy like this. This is all spreading towards the east. It's already been raining for about a couple hours now east of I-35, and the heaviest is still to come for you. Bastrop, Lee, Fayette Counties. All right, quick play-by-play. Heaviest rain moving through as we speak. After that, we should be just about done, with the exception of maybe a spotty sprinkle or two. Just gonna be a little cloudy this afternoon. That's okay by me. We don't need any more sunshine. We got plenty of it this summer. That'll hold high temperatures down to 83, but still far from the refreshing feel. That will come with cold front number 2, which I'll track for your weekend plans coming up in just a bit. All right, let's get over to Sophia Thomas first with an update on that deadly rollover crash. What do you got? 1 month ago today, this was the scene out in Marble Falls as baseball to softball sized hail did damage across much of that town. Once again, today, we're going to be under a similar threat. Storm Prediction Center keeping us at a level 3 out of 5 risk for severe storms from Austin towards the northeast and all the way through the deep south. Primarily in the mix here, the concern for extremely large hail. Once again, the atmosphere is super energetic. Strong updrafts are going to support baseball sized hail or larger, in addition to some damaging wind gusts and perhaps an isolated tornado or two. Takes a special kind of storm to get hail that big, and we've seen it before and we'll see it again today. Your normal updraft shown here, well, when you add wind shear into the mix, this updraft is rotating. Gets a special name called a supercell, and because of that rotating nature of this storm type, it can support hailstones for longer in the updraft. And as those hailstones just kind of float around here, around with supercooled water drops, they grow layer by layer until they get heavy enough to where they fall out of the cloud. Then the question is, how strong is the updraft? And today it could be very strong. Speedometer on the left-hand side of your screen. Pea-sized hail when your updraft is around 25 miles per hour. Severe hailstones, quarter size and larger, possible when your updraft is anything north of 60 miles per hour, but it can get as strong as 100 to 150 miles per hour. And this is what we're going to be up against this afternoon. Here's a timeline on how this plays out. Fronts coming our way from the north and from the west. That is what sparks our severe weather concerns that roll in later this afternoon and evening. Again, large hail, predominantly the risk. We'll walk you through all the details, what to expect as we get into Mother's Day weekend as well. Coming up.